here are 10 movable bar chords you must know. With just these 10 chords, you can literally play thousands of songs. We're going to go over major, minor, and dominant tonalities, and we're going to look at both the root 5 and root 6 chords. So let's dig in. Our root 6 major chord starts with our first finger barred all the way across all 6 strings. Now we can play these on any fret. Let's do it at the 3rd fret. So start with your first finger on the 3rd fret. Your second finger is going to go on the 4th fret on the 3rd string, and your 3rd finger up on the 5th string on the 5th fret, and then your pinky there's going to drop right down on the 4th string on the 5th fret. So you're going to have this shape. As we play all 6 strings, you're going to get that sound. Now sometimes with a bar chord, it's easier to start with the other fingers besides the bar first. So in this case, we could put 3rd and 4th fingers out here, put your second finger there, and once that's comfortable, then don't let your hand creep up here. Drop your hand down, straighten your first finger out, and just lay it down across there. One thing to be aware of with a bar chord is, while we only really need to be right here and cover this, if it's easier for you to have your first finger sticking out over the neck, that's fine. Whatever it takes to make sure you get all the notes that you're supposed to bar, which in this case, it's your 6th string, 2nd and 1st. As long as you get all those ringing out, you can sometimes move that first finger back and forth until that feels the most comfortable. And when we play it all, we get that. So this is a root 6 chord, meaning that note is G, so that's a G major chord, right? If I move it up here, it's A major. If I move it up here, it's B major. So wherever that note, whatever that note is, that's going to tell us what the name of the chord is. But it's basically your root 6 major bar chord shape. For the root 6 minor movable chord, first finger goes all the way across all 6 strings on the 3rd fret. 3rd finger goes out here on the 5th string, and your pinky is going to go there on the 4th string. We don't use our 2nd finger. Strum all strings, and that would be a G minor because root note is there, and that's G. If I move it up here, it would be A minor. You'll notice that it's a lot like our major chord. All I do to change that to major is drop that drop that 2nd finger back down onto my 3rd string, and that's major. Take it off, and that's minor. So it's a very easy switch to go between the root 6 major and the root 6 minor chord. For our root 6 dominant 7 chord, start with our first finger across all 6 strings. 2nd finger goes down on the 3rd string, and my 3rd finger is going to go out here on the 5th string. I play all 6 strings, and that gives me a dominant 7th chord. So if we see my root 6 is there, so that means it's G, so that would be G dominant 7. And when you see this written out, sometimes it's G dominant 7. Most often it's just G7. So a G major will be G major, G minor is G minor, but the dominant 7 will just say G7. So that's our G dominant 7th chord that once again can be moved all over the neck to all the other different, if I play it here, it's B flat dominant 7. Why? Because that note is a B flat note. I play that dominant 7 shape and figure out what the note is wherever I'm playing it. Down here, it's F, that's F, and I play that shape. That would give me an F dominant 7 chord. The root 6 minor 7 chord is one of the easiest chords for us to play. Bar all the way across the 3rd fret, all strings barred, and then drop my 3rd finger down on the 5th string. That gives me a minor 7 chord. In this case, because that note is G, that's a G minor 7. So if I sort of look at this progression, I've had a G major. If I take the 2nd finger off, it's G minor. If I put that finger back on and take the pinky off, it's G dominant 7. If I go from there and take the 2nd finger off, it's G minor 7. So that minor 7 ends up being the easiest one. Only thing that's on is my first finger there and my 3rd finger there. It can also be moved all over. Give me that minor 7 sound. I want to show you a couple of different ways to play our root 6 major 7 movable bar chord. Right? The way we're going to start with is with that bar all the way across the 3rd fret. 2nd and 3rd fingers are going to go on the 4th string and the 3rd string. And then my pinky is going to reach across here and catch this 5th fret on the 5th string. So bar, there, and there. So that's a major 7. And our major 7 here has this note as the root note. So in this case, that's a G major 7. And that's a full bar chord. Oftentimes you see this chord not barred, but it's still movable because we get rid of this note. So what we have is this one, and then these two. Now in this case, I don't play the fifth string, so I have my first finger lean against it, and I don't play the first string. So in this case, why we do that is sometimes that just sounds a little bit better. It doesn't have quite as muddy of a sound as this one does. But this is our true bar chord. So if you move this around, that's a major 7 bar chord. So our option is doing it this way, that's still movable, but it's not really a bar chord. So that'll give you a couple of different ways to play a root 6 movable major 7th chord. Our root 5 major bar chord has a couple of options. I'm going to start with the first way we want to play it, which is barring across the top 5 strings. So we don't need to bar the 6th string with my first finger here because my root note is on the 5th string. And then I want to take my 3rd finger and bar it across the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings. I do this by kind of flattening it down like that. So if you have trouble making your finger do this, right? This is a little bit tricky to play this one. You might want to work on it, but a common problem is you get to there and that first string is going to be muted because it's hard to lean on the 2nd string with that finger, but get off of the first, right? So that's the way you want to do it. But if that's too difficult, what you can do is actually play it with your first finger barred and then your 2nd on the 4th string, 3rd finger on the 3rd string, and your pinky down there on the 2nd string. So that's a little bit easier if you stay up on the very tips of those fingers to keep that first string ringing out, right? So either way you play it, doesn't make any difference, whatever works for you. Matter of fact, it's not a bad idea to play both because in different situations you may want to play one over the other, but that's always going to be your root 5 major chord, meaning your root note is on the 5th string here. In this case, that would make this a C because this is C, so that's C major, D major, E major, wherever I move it, right? So that's your root note, and then play that shape, and you've got a major chord. Let's look at our root 5 minor bar chord shape. Bar across the 3rd fret on all 5 strings with my first finger. Then I'm going to put my 2nd finger on the 2nd string on the 4th fret. My 3rd finger goes there on the 4th string and my pinky down there on the 3rd. So it's this shape, which looks a lot like our root 6 major shape, right? Root 6 major shape is over here. All I've really done is move that all down to here and I get the root 5 minor shape. So play through that. Only playing 5 strings. We don't play the 6th string. But once again, if my first finger leans on that string or touches it, sometimes it's nice to kill it, to kind of mute it. Even if I played all the way over it, I just don't strum that string, and that works fine. So do whatever you need to do with your first finger, up, further, down, just until you get all the strings to ring out. You experiment with that. But that gives me my minor chord based on this string, which is my C note, so that's a C minor chord. Dominant 7 root 5 movable bar chord shape looks like this. First finger is barred across my top 5 strings again. 3rd finger goes there on the 4th string, and my 2nd finger goes down there on the 2nd string. So I have to just make sure that I'm holding my first finger down enough to get that middle string, that 3rd string, to ring out. So it's a good idea to pick this one starting from the 5th string, one note at a time. And if you run into that means you probably don't have this. So you may have to move it up or down, slide it around until you get those all to ring out. That gives me a C because I'm starting there, dominant 7. If I move here, it would be D dominant 7 because I've changed my root note. The root note is on the 5th string. Root 5 minor 7 starts with the same bar across 5 strings. 2nd finger is going to go on the 2nd string. 3rd finger is going to go on the 4th string. So it looks a lot like our minor chord. I've just taken the pinky off, right? And that gives me that sound, which is a really nice minor 7th sound. So I can move that around. That's C minor 7. If I move it down 1 fret, that would be B minor 7. So wherever I put that note changes the name of the chord, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a minor 7. Here, because that note's D, and I play the minor 7 shape, gives me D minor 7. I just don't strum the 6th string, strum just 5. It's a really nice sounding chord. Our root 5 major 7th chord looks like this. First finger is barred all the way across, 5 strings. My third finger goes out there on the 4th string, pinky goes there on the 2nd, and then I drop my 2nd finger down there on the 3rd string on, in this case, the 4th fret, all right? So I have that shape. Don't play the 6th string, just play down across those. Always good idea to, see if you hear anything. If you hear something funky, go back, tweak on it, get up on your fingertips, a little tighter grip until it all rings out smooth. That would be a C, because that's my root note, C major 7.